Hello and welcome to another episode of Cascadia Mountain Weather. It's Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. My name is Kyle McCrone. I'm here with Wyatt Mullen. And right now we're looking at the satellite imagery on Thursday. And the main thing to note is generally pretty nice weather over Western Washington and Washington in general with kind of some convective afternoon clouds. But there's a big front off the Pacific that is approaching. That'll probably hit Friday night or so. So that's going to be the big weather maker for this weekend. This shows the departure from normal temperature over the last week. It's been quite a bit colder for the last week. Most places were anywhere from 2 to 6 degrees colder than normal. Some places closer to 8 degrees. It's also been wetter. So most areas have seen, a little more, inch more than normal or so. With the Central Cascades really being like 2 to 3 inches more than normal. So a wet, cold week to end the month, but we still ended April as one of the drier Aprils, despite this wet last week. So this shows the estimated rainfall precipitation over the last week. Most of the areas in the mountains are looking at 3 to 5 inches, with maybe a stronger band in the Central Cascades where there was probably a convergence zone last week. And we got a lot of snowfall out of this. Snow levels were anywhere from probably 5K down to 2K even. So Snoqualmie Pass got a few inches, but it was really the higher elevations, the North Central Cascades, the volcanoes, that probably picked up anywhere from 8 inches to 2 feet, maybe even more in the North Cascades. So this recent snowfall has actually increased our snow water equivalent in quite a few places. This is showing the change in snow water equivalent over the last week for a variety of different snowtail sites. And you can see that most areas are declining. And that's because most of these snowtail sites are, 4,000 feet or below. And they maybe got some snow, but they also got rain. It's also just warm this time of year. So those are going to be declining. But the higher elevations actually gained significant snow. So if we look at Easy Pass in the North Cascades, which is the highest, snowiest snowtail site, probably the snowiest snowtail site in the lower 48, it picked up almost 4 inches of water in terms of snowpack. So that means they probably got 30 to 40 inches of snow. And even some areas around 5K around Baker picked up 2 inches. Whereas Rainy Pass, Washington Pass, they lost depth just because they were further in the rain shadow and other lower elevations lost them. So while we're seeing, snow levels continue to creep up at the low and mid elevations, the upper elevations are continuing to get snow, which is great for filling in the glaciers and filling in the volcanoes.
So going to the weather for this upcoming weekend, what is it exactly going to look like? As Kyle mentioned, the next couple days are going to be pretty nice. We've been in kind of this pattern the last couple weeks now of pretty nice on kind of that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe lead up to the weekend, and maybe a little bit stormier on the weekends, which was a switch from earlier this spring where we saw very nice weekends a number of weeks in a row. So the precipitation starts to kind of creep in maybe late Friday, especially along the coast. But we really won't see too much precipitation moving in until the early morning hours on Saturday into the Cascades, especially the southern Cascades. Most of the storms are going to be concentrated more down in Oregon and California, and we're just going to get brushed by them through Saturday, and then eventually they will push through completely and spread throughout the entire state, which is going to be a little bit different than we've seen, where we're going to have some wraparound moisture coming up from the east, which will mean that eastern Washington, which has been dry the last couple weekends, is going to see precipitation as well and won't be quite as nice. So you can see as we go into the day Sunday, so this is 5 a.m. Sunday, we're seeing this precipitation move up from kind of the southeast, spread throughout the area, and spread throughout the entire state by the end of the day Sunday. So just be aware that if you're trying to escape to the east side, you might have a decent day on Saturday as clouds build, but Sunday actually has a pretty good chance to see rainfall throughout kind of the entire state. And you can see that here where if we go through kind of our 24-hour accumulated precipitation, by the end of the day Saturday, or by evening Saturday, we're just still starting to spread in, especially kind of through the central southern Cascades. And then as we move into Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon, it really goes throughout the entire state. North doesn't see nearly as much as the south, where we might see up to 2 to 3 inches of precipitation, while the north maybe only ends up getting about half an inch to an inch, but the east side is going to get anywhere from maybe just a couple tenths of an inch up to half an inch, which is pretty unusual this late in the spring. So it's cool to see that and good to see that likely, just because it helps with the agriculture over there. In terms of snow levels, we're going to be hovering pretty high. Tomorrow might approach 70 degrees in some of the lowland areas, and kind of 40 to 50 degrees in the mountains. And then as this storm enters, at first we'll see snow levels continue to stay relatively high. So this is 4 a.m. Thursday, 4 a.m. Friday, 4 a.m. Saturday. But as we move through Saturday into Sunday, we'll see the snow levels drop down to about 6,000 to 5,000 feet. And eventually early next week, we're going to have a showery and cool pattern again, where snow levels will be in that 3,000 to 4,000 foot range. And we'll see some snow accumulating in the mountains, which we can see here as we move forward in time. As you move early into the day Saturday, even though it's the precipitation is moving down through here, down near Mount Rainier and Mount Adams, it's really only hitting the higher volcanoes. The snow is only accumulating there. But as we go into the late Saturday into Sunday, we see it spreading up through the north, and those snow levels beginning to drop down as well, kind of to that 4,000 foot level. I think that we'll likely see, this is kind of meant to highlight cloud cover. I think we'll likely see clouds throughout the area as we go through Friday and Saturday, probably similar to last weekend, maybe a couple fewer sun breaks than last weekend. But the sun will come out, especially in the lowlands. Mountains, maybe not so much, throughout kind of Saturday and Sunday. So just be aware of that, it's that time of year that it really just isn't generally a washout anymore, except for a couple unusual circumstances. And then as we go later into the early parts of next week, we'll kind of see that showers and sun break. This is once again just highlighting the snow level. So this is down near the Mount Rainier area, kind of 5,000 to 6,000 feet for much of the weekend before we get into Sunday and early next week in that 3,000 to 4,000 foot range. And also wanted to look at the point forecast out near Wenatchee, where we see that this afternoon, so it's Thursday and Friday, highs around 70, before we see a significant drop to where we're in the basically upper 50s, maybe low 60s, and a good chance of rain and showers and cloudiness, although the sun might pop out over there as well. And going longer term, looking at, it does look like by next week, and especially next weekend, will probably be in a drier and warmer than normal pattern. And I think that looks to, it's hard to say, but that looks like that might continue for a little bit. So this section where it's been cooler and wetter than normal looks to pause at least for a couple weeks.
Finally, I would like to give a thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. In return for supporting us, they get weekly recreation recommendations where we really kind of dial in like different activities and timing in different zones. So if that interests you, we encourage you to check out our site at cascadiamountainweather.com, and we also have the link in the show notes. So we hope that you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.